Welcome back, everyone, to Hey Eintracht Frankfurt, the Bundesliga podcast covering everything there is to know in the English language about Eintracht Frankfurt, the greatest club in the freaking galaxy right now, the hottest team in Germany, the hottest team in the Bundesliga, and the hottest discussion in European football as it relates to transfers at the moment. We're going to get into all those things and more in our audio and our video version. I showered this time around because I looked like a total bag of ass last time. It is solidly in the negatives here in Michigan. Garret, your water pipe's doing okay down there. The heat's on high.
I left this morning. I didn't have to work today. Our office was closed in observance of Martin Luther King Day. And I went to an eye doctor appointment, and I turned the car on, and my car was screaming at me like a cat wanting to be fed because because I wanted to drive. You know what? We've been through worse lately, so this is nothing right now.
Before we get to John, we're going to get it out of the way. Our Lions got their asses kicked. We're well aware of it. We ran our mouths. We talked some shit. Our humble pie is in full serving this week, right?
January 18th, 2025, saw the Lions, Red Wings, and Pistons all lose in the same day.
See, this is what we get for running our mouths. We get this much
There's
success.
Our fucked up stat of the...
But you know what? Speaking of a guy whose teams know no success whatsoever, how you doing, John?
Doing well. I got to say, I took some pleasure in your guys' loss yesterday. You know, as a guy who's from the D.C. area, you know, all my friends and family are all big Washington football team fans. So I was really happy for them. It's been a long time. Not as long as you guys since they've had success, but.
You know, we don't hate them, but we're now 0-4 in the playoffs. And they've beaten us like a combined 130 to 60. It's ridiculous. But I got a lot of friends out there and got a lot of colleagues that go through there for work, and everyone's running their mouths today. I'm just going to keep it quiet, and we're going to talk about Eintracht Frankfurt because that's why we're here, and nobody cares about the other stuff. So, we're going to get right into it, guys. Over the weekend, the best news, by the way, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel and you're not checking out Garrett's post-game recap the Adlers, subscribe, youtube.com/HEF pod. Find a link on hefpod.com because Garret does fantastic recaps. I don't have any time for it, but he does a fantastic job letting you know what happened in the match if you didn't see it, some insights as far as what happened that you might have missed. Garret, you did a fantastic job the last couple of weeks covering while we were light on content here. Props to you, dude. Garret, give me your first takes on Eintracht Frankfurt 2, Borussia Dortmund 0.
Refreshing. Thanksgiving weekend 2016, the last time a win over Dortmund at the Waldstadion happened. And first half, front foot did what we needed to do to get the goal. Second half, Dortmund has the ball, but it's on our terms. Break us down. It's to quote pro wrestler Taz, beat us if you can, survive if we let you. They crumbled under the pressure, and it was a joyous day. And maybe I agree a little bit with what Alejandro Moreno was saying post-match, which is hell's frozen over. So
isn't it interesting how he was somewhat pleasant about us, and he went into it calling 2-0 Dortmund, so a nice little FU to him on that. But John, I mentioned when we were doing our preview last week how I thought a quick start was critical. At the time, we didn't know if Marmoush was going to be in, and I predicted he'd get an early goal. But it kind of says a lot about this group to get a 20th minute goal when Dortmund really did a good job carrying possession. I felt through most of that first half, but Ekitike's goal for me kind of let me take a breath and realize we're going to be okay. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, he was all over the place in that first half, just doing so much, creating so many chances. And he really made that goal happen from his pass to Christensen and then being in the right place to receive the cross from him again. and slotted it home perfectly. I mean, the guy was just an absolute menace against Dortmund's back line in that first half. I thought Knauf even played really well. He had his shot go off the bar, could have easily been 2-0, but, Guirassy also almost scored before we scored. So, Dortmund had some opportunities, but I think we had the better chances in that first half. We took advantage, went into the half 1-0 up, and it was a great offensive showing from us in that half.
You mentioned Christensen. Garret, where would we be without his emergence? Because we tried a few different guys in that area, but he's really the one that is stuck and been an absolutely pleasant surprise seeing his development over the last couple months. Would you agree? Like, is there a ceiling for him, or is this just, let him keep feeding the guys?
I also recommend, if anyone hasn't checked out, Christensen was one of the people Archie Rentut interviewed post-match on Friday, for which, if you go back and you check out the match on ESPN Plus, that's the post-match interviews is included in the content. When you listen to Rasmus Christensen speak and how composed, intense, on it he is, you can see how that translates to how he plays the match. That fiery energy. There was a moment in the match, I think it was the first half, where Hugo Larsson feeds a ball, or tries to feed a ball to Christensen, and it goes. John knows exactly what I'm talking about, and it's misplayed. And Hugo's got this boyish smile, like, "Hey, I'm all bad," and you can see Christensen just gesturing, like, "Yeah, over here," But it tells you why he's on. It tells you that's the energy, and that kind of aggressiveness is something we didn't have, I feel like, last year in terms of our style of play under Dino. And I think that's why we kind of, whereas Rasmus Christensen is another one of the pieces that have gotten right when you put them all together, helps make this Eintracht Frankfurt side of this year what they are. And
exactly.
Let's make it permanent as soon as possible for him.
Yeah, that's a big part of it too. As he gets older too and develops, he's only going to get stronger, I think. His decision-making will be even more confident than it is now. You mentioned Dino, and we got to give him some props because this team just keeps rolling. Ended the last calendar year a little sluggish, but I think to recoup the way they did over the break and come out as strong as they did, if you catch the quick feature, Garret, that was on ESPN that you shared earlier, he has that fiery, passionate, but yet composed demeanor. Even when there's bad calls in the match, he'll get up and do his yelling, but he's not carrying it with him for 3 or 4 minutes. He gets it out, he makes his point across to the refs, and he gets back to work. And I focused in on him a little more the last couple of weeks because I was really critical of him last year. I thought for a debut season, he carried us pretty well and didn't get too out of control, not too crazy with his decisions. But right now, him and his technical staff, it's putting together these lineups, it's finding what is working week after week. I mean, whatever their scouting and analytics is seeing, it is working because, we didn't outplay Dortmund to the extent I thought maybe we could. Dortmund still had nearly 70% possession, but we held our own. 5 shots on target to 3, total shots about the same. I thought we're physical, we're aggressive, but yet we're not taking cards the way we did last year or the last couple of years. And for me, that level of discipline shows a maturity that I didn't really know we could have. Maybe it's because Dominic Kor is no longer here. Christian Jakic is no longer here. The knuckleheads that love to pick up cards in the first 5 minutes. Yes, exactly.
I think one more stat I want to bring up because you talked about all the possession Dortmund had, and they completed 632 passes and everything. Expected goals: Frankfurt 1.70, Dortmund 0.82 from FOTMOB. So all that ball and all that possession doesn't mean anything I'm going to try to be for the explicit tags, unless you do anything with it. And I think also too, it helped that we got Dortmund at this time that they did, hosting them. And maybe in another year, some of their complaint calls that they go down for in that, they might have gotten. So I think it's one of those cool, the job done, but also let's if people haven't taken this moment in and this result in, take it in, because this is a good, like, hey, here, look where we're at right now, but also look what we can get up to if we keep going.
Yeah. And props to the back line. The defense, once again, we mentioned about 70% possession for Dortmund. That is a lot to stay composed defensively, to keep a shape along the back line. And they tried their best to probe the lanes and get through there. They couldn't do it. The guys stood up and met them outside the box. And I really thought that was a lot better than settling in, letting them get a bunch of crosses and connections. The last match in league play, we saw a lot of crosses in the box. And it looked like there was a concerted effort this time to not let them get in those advantageous positions where the ball bounces around, gets on someone's foot, and all of a sudden Trapp has to make a miraculous save, or worse, a goal is scored. So really, I mean, just A+ all around, I think. Who is your man of the match, Garrett?
I mean, Ekitike is obviously one for me. I would say I would probably also go with Rasmus Christensen. I feel like those are like the two neck and necks for me. Kamujan, great sub appearance.
Yeah.
Was involved in the battle that eventually led to Rasmus Højlund sending free. I will say also to Eintracht Frauen, while he didn't get a goal, it's uncertain times right now for everyone outside of like who's going to be the guy next to Hugo Ekitike. And while he didn't get a goal, I thought Eintracht Frauen had a pretty good showing up there in wanting to help this team get something.
Yeah. John, what about you? Who stood out?
Yeah, I mean, for me, Ekitike was the man of the match. I don't think it's particularly close. Just he was doing so much. Christensen obviously has a good shout for that as well. But yeah, I think also going back to your point about Dino and kind of his composure this year and helping the team be better. I think it's also a note to make about the team realizing that last year, while, yeah, we finished 6th, that's great. That's about where we wanted to be in a season where we didn't have a real striker for most of it. Good on the team for realizing that there still needed to be somewhat of a change, and we changed up the assistant coaching this year, and I think that has also been a really big help, especially on set pieces. We were one of the worst at set pieces last year, and we've been very solid at them this year.
Agreed. We're going to talk Omar Marmoush and his departure in a minute. We talked a lot about it last week. But let's talk from the other direction of incoming. Where's the point of need for you guys? Because you can never have enough support on the back end. But yet our back end is looking pretty good right now. The defense is composed. You can never have enough you can really never have enough depth anywhere, to be honest. On a team that doesn't have any glaring holes, but also has a very healthy pocketbook at the moment. John, what would be your wish list now with 1 week left in the transfer window?
I mean, at this point, I think the only thing we're going to do is get a replacement for Marmoush. I think we do need that. Well, I think we've got players in place that can fill that spot. I mean, Knauf looked great in that spot. I think Chanuzen can absolutely fill that as well. Being in 2 competitions, we're going to have at least 4 more games in Europa League at this point. I do think we need another striker to fill in just because we have so many games. My other thing is just a depth center back. Amenda will be coming back. The team put out a video today of him training again and stuff, and that's great. But he also hasn't really proved himself, I don't think, in the games that he's played. So I wouldn't mind another center back just in case someone goes down. You really can never have too much depth back there. I would love another midfielder, but I think we're very clogged up in that center mid right now with Skiri, Larson, Højlund, Dahoud, Götze can play there. So I don't think that's really a position we're going to target, even though I don't think any one of them is necessarily some super standout central mid.
Props to Højlund, too.
Yeah.
He was outstanding in his time on the pitch. Garrett, is this your ride or die roster, or do you see a need to add?
I would say your main piece would probably be something in that like attack midfielder, support striker hybrid type thing, like a Marmoush. Just because I think Igor Matanovic, to me, I think he has use, but I think he hasn't proved enough for me right now to come in as an out-and-out starter. As a sub role, 25, 30 minutes in when a tired defense, yes. Whether it's Knopf or Chamuzan or even Jean-Michel or even Bahoya, who this is a good opportunity for him to get some minutes. I think you still want to get somebody else in just for like, you said John, you said it. There's, Europa competition coming in there. And, international break is going to start. Frenton's going to start resuming in March. So those are the type of things. Other than that, I would maybe say some flank cover, left and right flank cover, maybe a body in for there. Because, I mean, without it being officially announced, we know Dina and Bembe is likely going to be out. What's going to go happen with Niels and Kuku? And, Nathaniel Brown, while crushing it, is still a very, very young player. And you're going to thankfully he had a lot of minutes at Nuremberg, but also when you account secondary competition, and he's going to need a night off here and there. Who are you going to put on that left-hand flank when he's out? Right flank, I'm not worried about, because if it's not Christensen, it could be Collins. If it's not Collins, it could be Tuta. If it's not Tuta, it can be Knopf. But I'm more on the left side, a little bit concerned.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, guys. There was a lot of dust in the air. I couldn't stop with the tears in the eyes because of all the dust, and it just happened to be Omar Marmoush on the screen getting his nice send-off salute from the Northwest Curve. It takes a lot for a player on and off the pitch to have an impact enough to show your face after the acknowledgement that you're leaving, and yet still be welcomed out by your teammates to get an ovation from 50,000 in the stands. That was damn near close to the send-off that Hasebe and Rhoda got. I mean, that's really the last time I remember a send-off that was that genuinely heartfelt. I'm sitting here with a Marmoush jersey in the background, but am I taking a little bit too far, like too close for a guy that was really only here 18 months? For me personally, if you look at the impact that he had from a goal scoring standpoint, but always showing up and with the right attitude, even through the down times, he was a positive light, working hard, never stopped that engine running at 100%. He was everything to me early in the Dino Topmuller era that is good. And if he responds to that kind of coaching, I hope all the guys maximize their potential the way he did. But was that send-off as special as I imagine it was, or am I just a romantic?
It was, honestly. And I think one thing that kind of gets lost among the Marmoush talk is obviously he's been incredible for us this season, but he really held this team together in the first half last season too. He came in and he was playing as our only striker, really. I mean, you hardly can count Ngankam as a striker last year. And when we didn't have a true striker on our roster, he came in and he was scoring at a rate that was honestly very respectable for someone who had never played in a striker role before. He obviously tied us that game in Mainz last year. Last second, I'll always remember that moment. And he kept us competitive for a European spot through the first half of last season until we were able to get Kalajic and Ekitike in to help get us over that hump and stay in sixth. And so, yeah, I think he's been an extremely important player for us for a year and a half. It seems a little weird to give a player like that, that's only been here for so long, such a send-off, but you just saw it in the way that he worked, the passion he showed, and he clearly loved playing for this club. I mean, you saw him celebrating with the fans after almost every goal. He'd be running to them and celebrating with them heavily, home and away. And so clearly there was a connection there, and I think it was absolutely worth that send-off for him.
Garret?
I think Marcus Kroosje was on pre-match with Archie, and he talked about the fact that it was Omar had asked to make the move. We'd known for a while a goal of Omar Marmoush's was to play in the Premier League, much like Filip Kostic had a goal to play in Italy. And with Marmoush, it was he like I said, he came in, day out. He did the work. Ideally, we would not have been surprised at all if he sat out any of those first two matches this year, St. Pauli and Freiburg, but he didn't. He played, and it was responsible for us getting results in those wins. And so to be able to be professional, and also realize, and also the appreciation for him, knowing that this time at Eintracht Frankfurt has helped change his path to get him to, which sounds like it's going to be done any day now. The move, to a Premier League club, and not just the Premier League club, the team that's won the last 4 Premier League championships, and also get the club, what is it, 75 mil and 5 in add-ons.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that on one hand that it's, while we're doing so well and this is going, but at the same time, it is club and player making it right for each other in this situation. And I think the supporters acknowledge that also and appreciate that, especially after what happened with Cole Milani last year. Mm-hmm. And I think that's that's where it was cool. And when even it's observed on live television by those that are covering the match, that's also that tells you how special that moment is.
Archie stepping away from his post-game commentary to send the camera over to that moment was, that's for anyone that was watching, at least if you're not, if you're a player, you're looking at that that's a club I kind of want to go to. They take care of their guys. That I've harped on it for months as we talked about this eventuality, but that's the modern sporting world we live in, where you balance the needs of your club with the desires of your players. And since contracts don't mean shit anymore, that's really the delicate balance they have to play from a business perspective. You want guys of that potential to come in here. We're always going to be a stepping stone club. We could win the Bundesliga this year. We're still going to be a stepping stone going forward. That's just the reality of the way the game works. And we've acknowledged that, and we've told guys, and we've proven it now. We're going to send players where you want to go, and you're going to get record paydays. Whether you're worth it or not depends on where you go, but we're going to help you get there. And not only that, we're going to love you as you're going out the door. And that's one of those things where, for some guys, rarely does it work out well. But even those that it hasn't worked out for quite as much as they had hoped. I mean, look at guys that went out less in fate, not less favor, but on less high end attention, like Gonzalo Paciencia. He's back in Frankfurt every chance he gets. I mean, it helps that Timmy Chandler's there. But a lot of those guys, Ante Rebic, Luka Jovic, these guys feel connected to this club in a way that they're not obligated to. We're doing something right from the cultural perspective that makes them want to be involved even after their time up here is done. It would be very easy. Some people, it's fair. If you just say, hey, you're not part of the club anymore, I don't give a damn, that's a fair take too. Because of the way players go in and out, they're in it for the money in their career. But if I was a player, I would be too. That's the difference between players and fans. It's our job to care about what we want to, because we're the fans. But for the players, they have a career. They have families to look out for. And I don't feel bad for any of them that take the money and run. But in this case, I think it was fair. The send-off Omar Marmoush received, and the way that the team responded when he was out there meant the world to me, knowing that we got the right culture. Any last thoughts on Marmoush in the transfer window and possible replacements?
I guess if we want to talk potential replacements, I don't know if you want to go over all the names involved.
Give me like the Chat GPT version.
Okay,
TLDR version.
Yeah. So obviously, names have been thrown out left and right for potential replacement. The ones with the most traction are obviously two guys we've had a lot of talks about since 2023, and that would be Arnaud Calomelindo from Rennes, Eli Wahi, who's now with Marseille. He was previously at Montpellier, I think, when we were first interested, went to Now he's at Marseille. I really don't want him, but that's a name that's really been hot today. And then the third guy that seems to be a concrete option is Matthias Kvistgaarden from Brøndby. Guy's got like 10 goals in 15 games in the Danish league. Personally, he's the guy I would go after just because he'd be a lot cheaper. But yeah, it looks like we're willing to pay a record transfer for a replacement this month, and that would be in the 20 to 25 million range.
Yeah, and that's a good investment in normal times, but we're in unusual financial times for Frankfurt right now, and I don't want to swing and miss at $20 million. But if we swing and make contact with the ball and put it in play, I think that's fair too. Garret, any thoughts on that?
I know Enmar Calamendo well from Rennes. I think is somebody that can fill in that Marmush type role and also be a left-footed option. I do prefer also, we have had successful experience with bringing in players from Brøndby before. See Jesper Lindstrøm. And I think that would be, Lindstrøm was from Brøndby, right?
Yeah.
So I think I'm intrigued by that. Aiden Heaven, our 18-year-old Arsenal prospect, was at the match on Friday. Marcus Krosher talked about potentially wanting to get it in. Didn't take a look and see if he's a wide defensive player or young or centrally based, but kind of goes along with the mindset. And even in what a Marmush replacement is, get somebody who's on the cusp or has the thing, make him a stud, cash out.
Yeah,
build the fortress.
So Heaven he was initially a central midfielder. Arsenal transitioned him to a center back / left back possibly. So he would probably come in as a center back / left center back. Yeah, I don't know too much about him other than that. His contract expires in the summer. I know there have been talks about possibly trying to bring him in the winter, but if not, he very easily could come in on a free in the summer.
That bringing him in satisfies my need for depth on that left because it's just another body filling him in.
Yeah, and we still got time to talk about it because there's still 11 days left in the primary window, and then the window extends in some countries. And I really don't understand why. Like, you can only make deals in this country or that country. It's a weird sport the way that's handled, but it is what it is. Let's bounce around the Bundesliga a little bit. Guys, I like that we played on a Friday. Gives us an extra day off before the Europa League match coming up. But some other results from the league on the weekend. One that kind of put a little distance in the table. Where was I looking? Stuttgart over Freiburg. That was one that kind of changed the dynamic a little bit in the chase for Europe. Where Stuttgart kind of pulled back their confident position in Champions League qualification, and Freiburg fell off the pace for Europe a little bit. The other one that was interesting, Bochum tying Leipzig, scoring 3 goals, which is outstanding for them, given their offensive record. And then St. Pauli over Heidenheim, not a shocker, but the key to me that we're seeing right now is some of these teams are starting to fight for survival. And we knew it was going to come after the winter break. Union Berlin beating Mainz, another one fighting off that relegation battle and scoring a victory over a team that's in the European fight. There's a lot of games right now where you're seeing teams say, hey, I'm not dead yet. I'm not ready to roll over. And some of these guys are going to be starting to play for their jobs, because if you're not helping a team get to safety, you're not going to be around on a Bundesliga roster next year. And is it a little too early to think about that as desperation matches? I mean, I think Mainz is a little punching above their weight class. I'm not too shocked by that, but Bochum over Leipzig, or tying Leipzig, for me is a big eye opener, because Leipzig was a lot of people's darling coming into the year. John, your thoughts on the Bundesliga right now?
Yeah, no. I mean, absolutely, some of these teams are already playing desperate. Bochum has to, right? They were honestly closer to matching Tasmania Berlin's record than they were to staying up in the Bundesliga just a few weeks ago. And now all of a sudden they're only 4 points away from Heidenheim in that relegation playoff spot. So, they've brought it on. Kiel's brought it on. Obviously, they beat Dortmund during the midweek. Now, of course, they lost to Hoffenheim this weekend, which was unfortunate for them and gives Hoffenheim some breathing room, because Hoffenheim is also right down there in a possible relegation battle. And then Pauli, massive victory over Heidenheim, 2-0. They have to play for their lives as well. They defend really well. I think they play good football, but generally just can't score. And for them to get a 2-0 victory against a relegation contender is a massive job for them. So, yeah, like some of these bottom of the table teams, they're already absolutely scrapping for their lives and doing a great job of it.
Especially, we've been in this position. Thankfully, we're not there anymore, where it was count until you get to that 33, 34 point mark that generally means safety. And then you can take a breath. But there have been teams in the past that tried to make a few moves at this point in the window to prevent relegation. And that is a very dangerous battle when you're spending money to survive and keep that first flight money. It's a dangerous game they play. Garrett, anything else stand out to you for this past weekend?
Bochum coming back, not only leveling, drawing points with RB Leipzig, but being 3-0 down and forcing the way back. The Heidenheim-St. Pauli match, so that was one of the ones I was able to catch on the highlight show before we started. Heidenheim in the 87th minute had a set piece that was ruled off to equalize for being offside, and St. Pauli makes it 2-0 in the 92nd minute. Inches, ebbs and flows, and now Bochum's 2 points back at Heidenheim. Heidenheim currently hold the promotion relegation playoff spot. Hoffenheim had the big win. I want to talk real quick on Werder Bremen Augsburg. Sunday, that was the 11:30 kickoff yesterday, and Bremen, Bremen ended the year well, ended 2024 well, but started a little rough for 2025. And moment that could have went either way just before half. Slight contact with Christian Jakic. Original ruling, Jakic gets sent off in a red. Goes to VAR review. It then goes into just a yellow for Jakic. Actually, no, Jakic didn't even get a card, so Jakic stayed on the pitch. Bremen had a couple chances, and then Augsburg went down the pitch and scored just before half to make it 2-0. So now Bremen could have been in a top 6 spot getting a result. Now they're in 9th. They're ahead of Dortmund. Chris, you mentioned it in our group. You're starting to see little subgroups in the Bundesliga table right now between like the teams that are in the European places, the teams that are trying to punch to the European places, and then the teams that are trying not to go down. Like, I think you have those three.
Thirds.
Yeah. And which is the exact opposite of despite the Bundesliga, which has a 6-point gap from first place to 12th place. I think I like the fact that it's Stuttgart behind us instead of RB Leipzig, to paraphrase the Against Modern Football, saying that my dear friend Andy Ridgway will say, Stuttgart seemed to have really they made a lot of moves in the offseason for Garassi being gone, brought some bodies in. Voltamata, it seems like in this last month or so, has really seemed to catch on, and they're finding themselves and becoming almost closer to where we had expected them. So I think that will be interesting. And, we got 16 more matches to see what the hell else is going on. Do we want to talk add to the Dortmund misery real quick with a statement?
Yes, always add on.
Yeah. Dortmund donor folks are not going to be happy about this, but who gives a shit?
Chris. We missed a segment, and that is your fucked up stat of the week. Do you have anything for us this week?
The Frankfurt beating Dortmund in 8 years at the Waldstadion for the first time in 8+ years is kind of a fucked up stat. We have only allowed 1 goal in the first 3 matches of this return. That's a fucked up stat.
I like that, given where we were at the end of 2024.
Yeah. I think it's 4 points clear Stuttgart, 5 clear Leipzig. And the chance this season's kind of a fuck because trying to fight the diva, and we're on a nice truce right now. May that continue.
Yeah. All right, guys. Break time on the audio side. Before we head there, it is time to talk about what we're drinking, what we're eating. John, any good airport beers lately? You been out on the road?
I know I had plenty of airport beers recently. I can't remember what all of them were. I had a ridiculously hazy IPA at Reagan before I flew to Chicago. That was from Vossen Brewing in Richmond, which is always a very good brewery.
What was that beer you were drinking that looked like concrete?
I think that's the one.
That's the one?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you guys can find Vossen out by you, but if you ever make it to Richmond, definitely check out their brewery. They make a lot of really good beers. Even though it looks like you could just chew the shit out of it, it was pretty tasty. But right now, just drinking a Twee. So
not just drinking it. That's good stuff. 90 grams of sugar per serving.
Oh, yeah. You know what? It's not as bad as you think, but it's still really bad.
Yeah. Garrett, did you hit up the Wendy's today?
Not yet today, but I went yesterday. I actually had for producer Nathan, for the inside joke yesterday, I had KFC after my eye doctor's appointment. So
KFC is good. German KFC is 10 times better. And anyone that's tried it knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Dude, I will look greatly smash a KFC famous bowl the minute I'm back in Germany.
I'm not going to lie. I have gone up to the counter for seconds at German KFC. That's how good it is.
Honestly, anywhere in Europe, man.
It's not just being it's not just being a fat guy. Like I go back for KFC seconds here because I'm fat, but there I do it because it's genuinely tasty, good food.
Yeah. As right now, I got a glass of black tea, Tetley's, just because it's cold. Need something to
good stuff.
Keep hard.
I am sulking in the Lions loss with my fucking Lions koozie full of cheap beer because I don't deserve to have nice things in this world. It's very clear by my choice of sports teams and the way that they treat me. I'm in a abusive sporting relationship, and Eintracht is the only one that's treating me well right now. So I'm just going to make my liver unhappy. But I am headed down to North Carolina next week, and there's some fantastic breweries down there. I am going to bring an empty suitcase to buy a bunch of beer from the Asheville breweries that were struggling to get by after all the hurricane damage and the flooding took their economy and their visitor numbers down. I'm going to try to ship back a whole suitcase of beer. And I did that once, and I think I put 40 cans in there, and about 30 of them made it back. That seems like a decent ratio. I would take that amount.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's move on. Segment 2. We're going to start with the Frauen for a minute because they come back to play in a unofficial capacity this week with a friendly against Cologne. That women's window has got to get looked at because pretty much 2 months off it's not good for the athletes to break that rhythm and getting back in. The Frauen have been training out in Portugal last week. I don't know if they're back now or if they're still there, but got to be some nice warm weather in Portugal right now. Hopefully enjoying that. Can you imagine going back to like cold, wet Frankfurt in January after, nice time in Portugal? That's got to be miserable. But a friendly against Cologne, I think the number one thing is mostly stay healthy. But the second thing is get that rhythm back. Top of the table going into the second half of the season. I'm not going to read too much into anything that comes out of the friendly here. But really the thing that we need to continue is Laura Fraging being the best player in Germany right now.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great test match, honestly. You're going up against a side that is struggling so much in the Bundesliga, but it's still Bundesliga competition. We had a friendly against Huelva in Portugal, and it was Spanish side, but beat the shit out of them in that. And hopefully, we play starters in the first half, bench players in the second half, and just get into a rhythm before we have to go face a good Leverkusen side to start the second half of the year.
Garrett, anything on the Frauen?
I think it's a shame this matchup with Cologne is in an unofficial capacity, because I would love to do a score prediction, but we'll play Cologne again in official capacity soon.
You know what? Let's do it just for Jake from 50 Plus Donor, because I know he would have a certain score line for us, and I think we're going to fire it right back at him.
Well, we beat him 8-0 in the first Bundesliga matchup this year. Yeah. I don't know if we'll get 8 in the first round back, but I think we can get 6.
I'll be honest. I think Laura Freigang could get 6 on her own.
She could. I was also going to go with 6 and none for that. I was going to go with a 6-0 victory in the friendly.
Jake would say, I'm going to speak for him because I just saw him last week in Chicago, but he would say it would be 10-0 for Cologne. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with 10-1 because I'm a nice guy. 10-1 Frankfurt over Cologne. But again, it's a friendly. It's just to get the legs under us and get back comfortable in the cold, wet environment that is Germany in January. But let's jump back into the men's side. By the way, the women return to action about 11
January
days.
January 31st.
Right? January 31st.
January 31st, home to Bayer Leverkusen.
Yep. We'll have a lot more on that one next week. But now back to Europa League play, guys. Sitting comfortable in 5th place in the table right now. But things are still a little bit uncomfortable around us. We got some work to do because we gave up some points in early matches. Back to action against Hungarian side out of Budapest, one of my favorite cities in all of Europe. Go there, enjoy it, both sides of the river. Ferencvárosi, they're arguably the best domestic side in Hungary. A shitload of titles, only once relegated for a couple of years. Really a historic club by Hungarian terms, but again, Hungarian terms are a little bit different. The quality of the Hungarian league is not, not being disrespectful. It's just not there. Financially, they're not there to support higher quality of play. But they do have the ability to punch well above their weight class. And it'll be interesting to see how we hold up against them because they're playing for position right now. Where we're sitting in 5th, and to be in the top 8, to have the easier path going forward. Frobby is down in 16th right now, and they need to be 24th to move on. So 7 points is at 24 spot, and they're sitting on 9 right now. So a little bit what we were talking about, clubs being desperate, especially smaller market clubs, smaller league clubs that are trying to make that extra money by advancing. They're going to come out desperate. They're going to come out swinging in Frankfurt Thursday night. We know what that atmosphere is going to be. European nights in Frankfurt, people who don't even watch us just for that. This is going to be interesting. It's 3 p.m. on Thursday. That's 2100 Central European time. Guys, any concern here? Are we just going to roll right through them?
I think this is a good opportunity to roll through them. They just recently lost their manager, Pascal Jensen, to be the new New York City FC coach. They brought in Robbie Keane to be their new manager. So
I did not know that, really.
Yeah. So, they still need to get adjusted. Obviously, they're going to be fighting for a position. Right now, they're in 16th, so they would be, theoretically have the easier matchup of the next 8, but still they need some more points to secure that because 25th place is only 2 points behind them. At the same time, a victory here goes a long way in confirming our spot in the top 8. I think it's a game we need to win. Roma away to finish it is going to be a tough match. Yeah. So I think this is a big opportunity. I think it's definitely a game we can and should win, though.
Garrett.
Play your game, you win 3. Play your game, play what you've been playing the last 3 times to start this year off, and you're going to leave the Waldstadion on Thursday night with 3 points. Ferencvárosi, they've given up 16 goals in 16 games in the even going to pronounce the Hungarian top league, but they are currently 1 point behind the Puskás FC Academy. And in Europe, they've allowed 10 and 6. So I think there's a chance for us to get some goals. We just have to be on our match, and we have to start hot because we started a bit flat in Lyon the last European match day. Yes, we took the lead, but it didn't matter because, the rhythm was off. However, I think we've kind of turned the corner since then, but the only way to really be able to do that is get 3 points on Thursday, which I think we will. 2-0, Frankfurt, Ekatike, and Larson.
So I have a concern in that the diva is always around, and I'm not trying to make jokes or go a direction that is constantly negative, but we just did have a very emotional win, not just because we beat a team who usually kicks our ass, but the Marmouche send off and all of that kind of stuff. We don't follow up emotion very well with solid play the following week or the following match, whatever that is. But usually it's European play where the high emotion is, and then we go into the weekend flat. Now you're kind of reversing that dynamic and turning it the other way. I wouldn't be shocked if we give up a goal to a team that's playing desperate, maybe even a very early one that just kind of happens in a fluke way. 1 point should be enough to keep us in the top 8, assuming there's not all kinds of chaos behind us. Rangers sitting in 8th right now, Tottenham with 11. There's some things that could happen that could catch us, but I think it's pretty safe to say we'll get 3 points out of this and then be mathematically advanced. I would like to see it taken care of in a way that we can rest guys for the weekend a little bit. We don't play till Sunday. But getting Ekatike off, resting his legs. Goetz, I assume, is going to start. I'd love to rest his legs a bit, too. He's played well lately, a little bit under the radar, but been more solid now than he was early. What's that?
He's played a lot. He's played a lot of minutes.
Yep, which is why I'd love to see him get a rest after we get a couple goals. I'm going to say 3-1. I think we'll give one up maybe early. But I'll give Goetz a goal because I like his effort lately. And Ekatike and Larson. Let's go that route. Probably Larson off the bench, too, I think. Again, there's going to be some weird dynamic. We'll probably see Larson start, just given that it's midweek. But there's a lot of dynamics going on. John, you got a prediction?
Yeah, I was also going to say 3-1. I was going to say brace for Ekatike, and then Sean Uzan gets a goal off the bench.
Garrett, I got your effed up stat for you. I've predicted the last 2 Bundesliga matches clean sheets, and both of them were accurate. So I got to ask Brian if I'm allowed to start picking clean sheets again, because now I'm on what's called a heater, and you don't want to give that up.
Counterphrase, do you want to ask forgiveness or just continue to seek forgiveness?
That's kind of the way my marriage works. I just mess up a lot and then just ask for forgiveness. So as we go into picking our Bundesliga match for the weekend, I'm going to think about how I handle your question there. Back into Bundesliga play Sunday, January 26th, 9:30 a.m. on the East Coast, 15:30 Central European time, Hoffenheim. Guys, tell me about the club that just, probably has, what would you say, more fans in the Air and Space Museum across the street than in the stadium? I think
more
that would
fans
be a
at
fair
Wacken,
argument.
3 times as many fans at the Wacken Heavy Metal Festival in the summer than at Hoffenheim.
No, that's a mathematical stat right there.
Yeah.
I'm a little more worried about the Europa League match than I am this league match. I don't see a lot in Hoffenheim that scares me, other than our own, diva-like mentality sometimes. Am I crazy?
Hoffenheim.
Can they bite us?
Hoffenheim on Thursday at 12:45. They have a game where they're a couple points out of that knockout spot in the Europa League. They host Tottenham Hotspur. And right now, form-wise, Tottenham Hotspur is on a level of form similar to Hoffenheim's. So this is a very winnable game for Hoffenheim to get into the position. Dare I say they might go how they go for it on Thursday. Give you an idea of how, like, are they going to, like, go for it against us on Sunday too, or are they going to take it a little bit easy? Yes, they beat Kiel 3-1 this past weekend, but I think if we play our match that we have been playing, I feel good on that in Hoffenheim on Sunday. But thankfully, it's both teams have European obligations going into Sunday.
John?
Yeah, I mean, if you saw Andre Kramarich's interview with Archie, not this past match, but after their previous one, it just shows that club is in a really, really bad place right now, mostly off the pitch. And on the pitch, it's not great either. Yeah, they were able to get a 3-1 victory over Kiel this weekend, but Kiel also was just coming off an extremely emotional victory, beating Borussia Dortmund. So you knew there was going to be kind of a letdown there. It does give Hoffenheim a little bit of breathing room in the relegation race for right now in the Bundesliga. And like Garret said, they're still playing to get qualification to the next round in Europa League. And I think they're going to take that match on Thursday extremely seriously. It's a winnable match for them. Tottenham have a shit ton of injuries, not playing well. So I think they're going to go for it on Thursday. And I think that'll make that even a more winnable game for us on Sunday. I don't see any reason why we should lose this game, but you never know when the Diva's going to hit.
Yeah. On the matter of quality, I think Tottenham's stronger. And while they're, playing to similar levels right now, that cream usually rises to the top. And then, when you got two bad creams together that both are rotten and smell bad, there's still one rising over the other. So, God, that's an awful analogy.
And I think also, too, the one thing that will remind Eintracht Frankfurt people of an experience we had in the Pokal last month, there's a chance that in Spurs' case, they're playing for Hans Postecoglou's job. As we saw what happened with Leipzig with Marco Rosa and how that Pokal match went, that might, if they want Big Ange still at the helm, they might run wild on Hoffenheim. If they're still not clicking, then who wants it more? Because obviously there's rumors about Ilzer, but Hoffenheim also retooled their back academy to try to replicate all the Sturm Graz. So it'll be very interesting to see how that game goes early Thursday.
I'm going to totally hijack this for a minute because it's bugging the hell out of me. I've had this question in a lot of sports for a lot of years, but it's been mentioned a couple times in this episode. We mentioned it last week when we were previewing Dortmund. I am really annoyed with this idea of like playing for a manager's job, whatever the sport. We dealt with it with our hockey team. Dortmund's dealing with it right now. Tottenham, other clubs where like, if you lose, your coach is going to get fired. If that discussion is being had, he should already be fired. This idea that one more loss and you're out, to me, that's the stupidest concept in all of sports. Because if you're discussing if Leipzig loses in the Pokal, then they're going to fire their coach. Well, they should be fired anyway. If it's that borderline, what are you just waiting for the next one to make that call? I hate that concept. I don't know why it's so prevalent, but like maybe that's just fans that talk in the background. I don't think the board at Eintracht is sitting there like keeping tabs on Dino. 1 loss, 2 loss, 3 loss. Oh, if there's a 4th, he's gone. Like that whole concept to me, I mean, it's not anything we got to discuss. That whole idea of like playing for the manager's job. How about play because you don't want to suck at the game that you love? Like for me, that's where it should be. But yeah, I mean, we dealt with it with the Red Wings. Like, oh, if Lalone loses, Yzerman's going to fire him. And sure enough, he did. Like that whole like counter just drives me wild. But anyway, sorry, I didn't need to go on that tangent. Predictions for Hoffenheim, John?
I was going to say 3-1 again. Goal scorers, Knauf, I think he's playing very well. Larson likes to make some runs, so I'll give him one. And why not? Why not Teot, man? Eventually one of his shots is going to go in, right? It has to.
He's been trying to get in there on the headers too.
Yeah.
And I mean, the guy can jump, which he's strong enough. He should be able to get up there. He's got to connect with one, right?
Yeah.
Garrett, prediction?
Hoffenheim 1, Frankfurt 3. Ekitike plays the role of assist guy. I don't know the order of the goals, but the goal scorers will be Knauf, Christensen, Nathaniel Brown.
I made my decision. Hoffenheim, 23 goals for, 35 against, 18 matches played. They're not scoring another goal this week. They're going to get shut out against Tottenham, and they're going to back that up with a shutout loss to Frankfurt. It's going to be in the 2-0 realm. I'm going to say Ekitike and Tuta, name that we haven't seen do much in a while. Kind of on the outs, a really weird situation there. I really don't know if
he's been injured and like working his way back from injury. And I think because of how well we played in the first 2 games of the season, Dino didn't feel a need to change up the lineup like that and bring him in. So I think he'll get back in the lineup soon enough. And
I think with all the matches in play right now, he's got to. We need that depth there. But a Tuta goal, that one of my favorite things about him this year is at least before injuries, his willingness to move up a little more and be a threat and try to find those scoring opportunities. I think Ekitike and Tuta closer would really just set a tone for us going forward. So
I think also too something to be on the lookout for with the Ekitike interview with Archie. He talked about how his partner in crime is gone. That dude's like, he's channeling Equalizer vibes. That dude's like, I think he's about to go on one, boys.
I love it. If you have any issues with my clean sheet prediction, let Brian know, and he can find me for doing such horrible things on his air. But yeah, guys, that's all I got. Anything else you got to add for this one?
I don't think so.
Fórza SGE, boys.
Give me the socials.
All right.
Garrett, we got about 5 minutes for your socials.
All right. Well, first things first, Chris, you talked about earlier on the YouTube. Hey, Eintracht Frankfurt, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. The more that we might be able to do some cool shit live. Hefpod.com, website where you can find everything related to episode history. The About Us section, Chris updated it. It's funny as fuck. A map of where you can find Eintracht Frankfurt maps and everything like that. Also, Instagram, shout out to Matt, Miles for the branding, producer Nathan for the artwork. Hey, Eintracht Frankfurt also on Blue Sky, hefpod.bsky.social, Twitter, HEFpod, GM Comats, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, and Blue Sky, and the Majors Detroit for all your Detroit sports sicko content. There we go.
Just memorize the script.
Yeah.
John?
You can find me on Twitter at Ben_JBen, Instagram, JohnBen33, and Blue Sky, where I'm the most active now, johnben.bsky.social. This
might be my Blue Sky week. I might add that.
Oh, shit.
So I'm on Instagram at ChrisUnMonroe and Peloton at C&D313. Of course, hefpod.com, all the socials linked there. And we are opening a blog space this week. So if anyone wants to put their thoughts on paper, and I'm not just talking about hosts, we might do like an open blog forum where people can give their feedback, but someone's going to abuse the shit out of that, and I'm going to have to shut it down. But anyway, it's going to be an interesting week of football, interesting weekend, and hopefully next week we're talking about all the good things because we're just going to keep this train rolling, and we're not going to change it until, that diva gets behind the wheel. So, guys, we're going to talk next week. Until next time, cheers.
To quote pro wrestler Taz, beat us if you can, survive if we let you. Hey, Eintracht Frankfurt, la 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 la. Hey, Eintracht Frankfurt, la 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 la.